Absolutely. Thank you for having me. As you said, my name is Nathan Chen, and I was born in Salt Lake City, and I am currently residing in Orange County, California. I currently train at the new Ducks facility, Anaheim Ducks facility, in Orange County in Irvine. So that's currently where my base is at. My team is located, which has been awesome. And yeah, truly, just thank you guys for so much for supporting me on my journey. Looking forward to this upcoming year where, we have qualifications coming up, we have world championships coming up, and, hopefully qualify for that next Olympic team. And so truly, thank you guys so much for supporting me on my journey. And I was recently on a tech and innovation meeting a couple of months ago. So shout out to that group of people. It was a great meeting. So yeah, thank you guys so much.
Nathan Chen, I want to go to you first. And can you talk, Nathan, about how this has impacted you over the last year, both from a training perspective and competition?
Yeah, absolutely. So I recently just finished competing at the US Championships, which was initially supposed to be held in San Jose, but due to the pandemic was shifted to Las Vegas, where we successfully completed a competition called Skate America about 5 months ago. 5 months ago, and they formed a bubble, an environment that was isolated from the rest of the world, in which the skaters could just be there for a couple of days to do the competition. And since that went by so successfully, the U.S. figure skating decided, our NGB decided to then switch over to back to Vegas, back in that location to run nationals, the U.S. championships. So that was a major thing in terms of competitions. A few of the competitions were canceled. So unfortunately, the Olympic test event that was supposed to be held in February this month was canceled due to, in December was canceled due to the pandemic. But fortunately, I believe that there will be a test event that will happen later on, closer to the games, that some athletes may be able to access. But beyond that, the majority of the season was relatively similar, except for the international season was basically all the international athletes were only allowed to compete within their respective countries, and we were not allowed to travel internationally. Um, but as for that, it was I think the safest approach. And I think as logistics go for day-to-day training, I fortunately was not affected too heavily in that regards. At the beginning of the pandemic, of course, everyone was staying at home and we weren't allowed to go into the rink. So that was a couple months off, which was a little bit out of the norm. But as things started getting a little bit better, the rink started opening up and I was able to get time in. So as an athlete, I think I am not really in a position to complain about how hard my life has been. I've been given everything I need. There have been people that have been supporting me. People, if I need mental health support, I have that. If I need physical support, I have that. If I need training, I have people at the USOPC that can help me. So truthfully, I have nothing really to complain about. I'm sure people are struggling a lot more than me. So I'm just really fortunate to be in this position, and really hoping everyone is able to come out of this, with their heads held high.
Nathan, have you been able to still stay in contact with all of your coaches through all of this?
Yes. So at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was actually at college, but we then were basically kicked off the campus. No one was allowed to return. And during that time, I was training away from my coaches, so they were in California. But actually, through all of this, craziness, I actually happened to be able to come back to California, back to my coaches. And since they're in California, no one had to move around. And we initially started off the ice, just in like a park, just to like go through some basic off ice mobility and some technique off the ice. So basically, since the start of the pandemic, I've been with my coaches, and as we transitioned onto the ice, they stayed with me as well.
Nathan, I want to go to you first on this. You grew up in Salt Lake City. How did you initially get into skating?
So as you just said, I grew up in Salt Lake City. I was 3 years old when the 2002 games occurred. So clearly at the time, I didn't have a very clear vision of what I wanted to do. But because of the games, the practice facility was like maybe 5 minutes away from my house. And it was like a brand new facility, incredible state-of-the-art facility. And since I had just such close access to it, I was able to go with my family. I have two brothers and two sisters, and we all just went to the rink all the time. We skated. My brothers played hockey. I played hockey a little bit as well, but mostly ended up figure skating. And I just fell in love with it. It was just something that was so out of the normal, to be on the ice, to just experience like a huge expanse of ice. I was tiny, so it was like, it just felt so enormous, and it was just really, really cool. So that's kind of how I initially got into it. And within our NGB, we have like a learn to skate program, which like pairs you to a coach. And that coach basically just slowly took me up the ranks as a little kid. And I competed in a couple competitions. At the time, I was like the only male skater too, so competed with a bunch of girls at the beginning. And slowly, as I started, sort of working my way up the ranks, I started being able to compete across the nation against other guys, and yeah, I just loved competing, loved skating. Felt like the challenge of skating was something I couldn't find anywhere else, and that's basically how I got into the sport.
Nathan, did you have any sport heroes growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. So within skating, there was the guy who won. Um, he got second at 2002, won 2006, continued skating in 2010. His name is Evgeny Plashenko from Russia. He's known for just like crazy jumps, crazy elements, crazy speed, crazy just charisma on the ice. And I just thought that was really impressive. Thought that was really cool. And I think I definitely have carried some of that mentality into my skating now, where I'm very technique heavy and technique focused, and really love to attempt the jumps. And so yeah, that was definitely the first person that like left an imprint of skating in my mind. And then on top of that, of course, the legends of the sporting world, Serena Williams, LeBron James, of course, these people that I'm currently sitting with as well. Like, just so many inspirations that, I grew up watching and carried me into this Olympic dream.
Nathan, let's go to you. A moment in your skating career where you knew that things were going to be on a different track.
Right. So, I mean, sort of mirroring what Kendall just said, I spent a lot of time at the at the Paralympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. And yeah, I mean, I was a baby then too, and it was really just incredible to be able to be surrounded by some of the world's greatest. I remember just training at in the gym with Alana Myers-Taylor, who then just, made up, since then has just blown up. And it was just incredible to be able to see like the work ethic and the amount of dedication that these athletes put into their sport. As for figure skating, the world of figure skating has changed pretty dramatically since 2010 or 2014 even. There's an element in skating called a quad, where you jump up, rotate 4 times, land back down. Prior to 2010, no one was really doing that so much. It was maybe like 1 or 2 per program. Now you can consistently see between 3 to 6, which is a pretty drastic change in the course of maybe 4+ years, since 2014 really was when that switch. 2016 was when that switch occurred, but 2014 was sort of when it was just like it was just starting to come up. It was just the tinder of that. And so when I landed my first quad in 2016, I was like, okay, well, now at least I'm like sort of somewhat matching the field. But as the years progressed, I started landing more and more, and then recognizing that I can start putting more into the program. And as soon as that happened, really, I became competitive within the sport, and it put me in a position that I was actually able to compete for podiums. And slowly, as skating shape changed, as the field of skating changed, I sort of changed as well, and that happened to work really well for me.
Cool. Nathan, you made a comment a little while ago about the introduction of quads, and the sport that you're in is continually pushing the envelope. That really requires you to be at your top form, to have a lot of additional support. How have you seen that change, and what do you have going on behind the scenes to help support you do those kind of acrobatics on skates?
Right. I think that, well, skating just seems like such an individual sport. We're out on the ice completely by ourselves, for 4 or 6 minutes. So it just seems like, like in general, it's just a very individualized sport. But in reality, we have a pretty tremendous team behind us as well. I think skating previously has been a little bit behind track as it comes to, tech involvements, as well as just like having a lot of different modalities to help you throughout the season and throughout your career. But recently, it's been a priority of the USOPC to include strength and conditioning, to include nutrition, to include mental health, to include nutrition.
Yeah, Nathan, I think Nathan is frozen up. Are you guys hearing me okay? Okay, I'm gonna while we're waiting for Nathan to unfreeze, Nathan, let's go back to you. Sorry, we lost you there for a minute, but I want to move on and talk a little bit about Beijing. We're 359 days to opening ceremony in Beijing. I know that everyone has lost their test events that were scheduled for this winter. How difficult is it for you, Nathan, to go into an arena you haven't skated in before? Is it any problem for you in making a transition?
Right. There is quite a lot of variance as it comes to competitions in terms of what event or what arenas we compete at. So traditionally speaking, a lot of the competitions that I've been at have been in brand new facilities, places that I've never been in. So I think that although we won't really get this opportunity to compete there, it will be okay, just because it's like, again, this is not this is not a new situation for a lot of skaters. But that being said, I think there will be an opportunity sometime next year for some sort of test event, just because the ISU needs to have an opportunity to make sure that things will run smoothly, which hopefully I'll be able to go to. But if not, again, so many competitions have been at new facilities, it should be okay.
Nathan, I know you're of Chinese heritage and you have been over to Beijing and to China. You have family and friends there. Can you share any aspects of Beijing or of China to help us to better understand the landscape and the place?
Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of energy in Beijing. It's been a while since I've been back, so to be honest, I don't quite remember all the details of Beijing. But as you said, I have family there, so I'm really excited to be able to go back and see that. And I do recall, just trying amazing street food along. I mean, I wouldn't recommend doing this before the competition. Save this for after. But yeah, definitely, if you get a chance, go out and try some of the unique Chinese cuisine, as well as there's some incredible sites. So it's a really cool place to be, and I'm really excited to be able to see it again.
Let's talk a little bit about what it takes to support Team USA. We've touched on a few points, and Nathan, I want to go to you first. Over your career, have there been programs or circumstances where USOPC's support of Team USA has really helped you to continue your career as an athlete?
Absolutely. So in 2016, right after the national championships, I attempted an element in the exhibition and had an avulsion fracture in my hip, which then basically kicked me off the ice. And at that point in time, like, I hadn't really established myself that much in skating. I just won third at that national championships, but I had never really competed senior internationally. So I wasn't, well acclaimed in the skating world at that time. But regardless of that, the USOPC took me in, got me surgery immediately, and covered all of my rehab. Immediately after the surgery, I was kicked out to Chula Vista, at the Paralympic Training Center there, to get rehab for about two months. And then after that, I was shipped out to Colorado Springs to get more rehab for about 6 months. And the craziest thing is, at the time, like, I didn't have any true strength and conditioning. It was all just like random people. I went to 24-hour fitness to find a strength and conditioning coach, which was not the approach that you should do as an elite athlete. So I went out to Colorado Springs, and then I met my strength and conditioning coach there. And this is the same strength and conditioning coach that I have now. And it was all thanks to the USOPC. Regardless of anything, they still were able to put all this effort in and help me. And truly, without that, I don't think I would not have been able to get where I am now. Getting back from an injury like that is really challenging. And not having, the logistic support and just having all this, this experience with dealing with these sort of situations, it would have been so hard for me. So truly, yeah, I think now where I am now is completely as a result of that.
Okay, next one. What new thing have you learned about yourself in the last year? And Nathan, do you want to kick this off? What new thing have you learned about yourself in the last year?
I think I've just learned the importance of being mindful. I started working with a sports psych who really introduced this concept to me, and have been utilizing things like Headspace to keep myself, give myself time to do like little brief meditation throughout the day. And I found it has helped my positivity, my motivation levels throughout the day, especially now in a situation where you don't know when the next competition will be. It really has helped me stay motivated and on top of my game.
Great. Nathan, do you want to start it off? One word that describes what it means to you to be an Olympian.
That's tough. I mean, I think there's a lot of words that encompass that, but as of now, I think humbling, just being able to see all the amazing, incredible athletes that you're surrounded by, and recognizing it, you're not nearly as good as them, but it's incredible to be able to see that.